The house that you see before you was constructed around 1800, shortly after Nicholas Lingen purchased the land. Architecturally, the house was typical of the Maryland federal style at the beginning of the 19th century. The plan of the house consisted of a central hall with 2 rooms on each side, each room with its own fireplace. The house you are looking at today was altered from its original condition in the late 19th century. The roof line was flattened. It used to rise to a peak in the middle, typical of many modern roofing styles. Parts of the walls and windows were rebuilt, perhaps due to a fire. In the interior, the fireplaces on the east wall were removed, although you can still see where the chimneys were along the roof line. Look out from Mount Welby towards the Potomac. The modern-day view is impressive enough, but imagine what this view must have looked like without the trees blocking the way. The house is perfectly located for a gorgeous view of the Potomac's shipping traffic and Alexandria's buzzing docks. Washington City, America's young capital, was just over the hill to the north. You may even be able to see the tip of the Washington Monument, depending on the time of year and weather. Imagine cruising down the Potomac. Glancing up on this towering hill is a glistening white farmhouse commanding the scene. This was a fine spot indeed. Other notable figures had similar home locations. George Washington lived at Mount Vernon, a few miles to our south, and later, Robert E. Lee resided at Arlington House, just up the river to the north. This was the Potomac Highway, and you have a truly historic vantage point. This same dramatic view provided the de Butts family with a first-hand view of the War of 1812. England and America were at war over many issues. America believed England had been taking sailors off her naval ships and forcing them to work on their own ships. Americans blamed the English for inciting the Native Americans against them. Many Americans also had a desire to conquer and seize Canada. America declared war on England to settle the issues. Wars are much easier to win on paper. The cost was terrible, and the results were ultimately inconclusive. The war destroyed shipping. In 1812, Mary de Butts lamented its impact on their crops.
We are just now in the midst of a harvest, and have every prospect of plentiful crops. But if the war continues, we shall have no market for our grain. 'Tis terrible times for the farmer, but the poor merchants will be ruined. Money never was so scarce. There is scarce a dollar to be had.
War is painful and terrible. For the de Butts, this war was especially troubling. They now lived in America, but they were from, and their family still lived in England. If they supported their home and neighbors, they opposed their own family. War came very close to where you stand. Bladensburg, Maryland, only miles from where you are, was the scene of one of America's greatest defeats.
I cannot express to you the distress it has occasioned. At the Battle of Bladensburg, we heard every fire, that place being not more than 5 or 6 miles from us. Our house was shook repeatedly by the firing upon forts and bridges.
After defeating the American forces at Bladensburg, British soldiers marched into Washington, and on August 24, 1814, they burned the White House, Capitol Building, and other structures. Much of Washington City was ablaze. Some intentionally, much not. The walls of Mount Welby glowed ominously from the flames signifying the downfall of the American capital. Days later, a British naval fleet sailed up the Potomac directly in front of you. Alexandria, Virginia surrendered to the fleet rather than fight it out. 454 United States soldiers were stationed on this hill to aid the defense of Fort Washington, a few miles south of us. The fort evacuated in the face of the British advance, opening up the entirety of the Potomac to the world's strongest naval power. Soon, fire ships, boats packed with explosives, were intentionally set ablaze by Americans and hurtled down this stretch of the river, hoping to damage the British fleet and force their withdrawal. Mary de Butts later called this time a day and night of horrors.
We found 3 rockets on our hill, evidently pointed at our house, but fortunately did not reach it.
The two quarreling nations signed a treaty soon afterward. By 1815, the war was over, but neither side emerged as clearly victorious, and there was little to show for the carnage. Mary wrote to her brother in 1815.
The termination of the war has cheered hearts of thousands, but its bitter consequences will long be severely felt.
Proceed down the hill to the pathway and follow the road to your right.